Hi, my name is Owen Paul, and you're listening to CATtales.
You're listening to CATtales.
Hi, I'm Kat, and you're listening to CATtales. Owen Paul is everyone's favourite waste of time. Singer, producer and co-writer of the 1986 pop hit My Favourite Waste of Time, Owen was the overnight sensation who spent years honing his craft and who went on to forge a very successful career in the entertainment business. Since that song topped the charts, he's played a leading role in a major musical production, toured the UK and Europe with Phil Collins as one of Mike and the Mechanics, and was harassed by the Osbournes in that infamous Noisy Neighbours episode. But the love of live performance is in his blood, and Owen returned to the stage in 2009 as lead vocalist for XSM, featuring original Simple Mind members Derek Forbes and McGee, and has since released new solo material as well as remixed versions of his unforgettable 80s classic. This is the one with Owen Paul.
That's okay.
We'll be fine. You sound good, and that's the most important thing.
Apparently.
Well, do you know what? I want to take you back to those early years. And we've got to start there because we're just over 36 years now, aren't we? Anniversary of the big hit, aren't we? I just want to visualise this young guy, with this opportunity that falls in your lap when you're actually got another career in mind, haven't you? Because you're already playing on the apprentice team for Celtic, and then suddenly you've got the whole world at your feet opening up with the music industry. God, that must have been so unbelievable.
Well, you're kind of not right exactly in a couple of instances there, right? So, I was signed to Glasgow Celtic when I was a teenager, right? Somebody spotted me at a school football match, and then I didn't realise who they were. Then they spoke to me and my dad afterwards, and then they signed me to Celtic, and then I trained with them. Then I played for my country at Scottish schoolboys and all the stuff. That's like mid-70s, right?
Yeah.
Mid-70s. Anyway, somewhere in there, something went a bit wrong. Around 77, between 76 and 77, the punk explosion happened with the Sex Pistols and the Clash and the Damned and all those bands. And then everyone around me were forming bands rather than going to youth clubs or whatever, like we'd normally do, right?
Yeah.
So rather than playing table tennis, they're going, we can have a band. If the Sex Pistols can, we can. That kind of thing, right? And then I remember in our house in Glasgow in 1970-something, 77, I think, my brother Brian and his friends from school were playing and rehearsing in our basement, right? Okay, so that sounds very posh. Like, my God, people in Glasgow have basements. But actually, it was not. It was a tenement building. If you want to Google tenement building,
oh, I know about tenements. Yeah,
I'm sure you do,
okay.
And you'll see exactly what it is. And it was very working class and whatever. But we did have a basement, right?
Ooh.
And anyway, Brian and his friends, Jim, Charlie, Derek, I think, and then Mick McNeil later on, they were playing stuff in our basement. So I used to sit at the top of the stairs because I wasn't allowed in, right?
Yeah.
So I'm 15, 16, but I loved the sound they were making. And what I also loved, probably even more, is that they used to play 7-inch vinyl records before they rehearsed to kind of motivate themselves, right?
Yeah.
To motivate themselves. So they played Anarchy in the UK, they played White Riot, and they played New Rose, I think, by the Damned. And I was like, oh my God, what is that noise? That noise really spoke to me.
Yeah.
Right, and I can't even explain it. Even now I'm the wrong side of 60. Even to this day, it's just music, right? And it's just a few chords and a few things and whatever. But it did more than that. It spoke to me in a kind of youth culture where it said anything is possible.
Yeah.
You can do anything, and you can have a go, do your best. You don't have to win, but you do your best, right? That kind of thing.
Mm.
So anyway, I then had to go and tell my dad, who's an Irish Catholic, that I'm going to stop playing football for Celtic.
Oh, no. Uh-oh.
Yeah, that was a bad moment.
Oh, dear.
So I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do that. And he's like, do what? I went, I want to sing songs like Lou Reed and David Bowie and that. He's like, we can't even play it. And I went, so? I said, the whole point is you don't have to. You can just learn it as you go. So I then, it's a bit like, if I had Google, I would have done, but I studied videos of Mick Jones from The Clash, and Keith Richards, and I thought, okay, Owen, rule number one, learn how to hold a guitar.
Yeah.
That's what I did first, right? I couldn't play a note or anything. So I did that, watched them, how they held it. I love Mick Jones, thought he was amazing. And I thought, okay, so you have to have the guitar strapped down a little bit closer to your knee than normal.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the guys like Nick Hayward to this day hold it right up to their chest. I don't. I put it right down the bottom of my legs.
Yeah.
It's virtually impossible to play like that. But anyway, never mind. I just wanted the look to be right.
Yeah, of course.
So anyway, my brother that I was talking about and his friends from school turned out to be Simple Minds.
Oh.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Right? So now it's 1977, 78, and they're on BBC Two, on the Old Grey Whistle Test, playing their first album. And now my brother, who's been right beside me since I was born, is now on national telly. And not just me, everyone around us in the city thinking, hang on a minute, if they can do that, we can do that.
Yeah, wow. So inspirational.
And that is what happened.
Wow. So that was the turning point for you then, because you actually saw this the first off dream of listening to the Sex Pistols and the Damned, as you say. Suddenly you think, do you know what, actually I can be somebody from The Clash, because look, my brother and his mates are actually making it happen. I can do that too.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And I wasn't the only one. I mean, my school is famous for Altered Images, Lloyd Cole and the Commotions, Travis, and way more. I can't remember the rest, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a wonderful movement at the time, wasn't it? Absolutely.
It was as if everyone from my school woke up the next morning and went, hang on a minute, we're going to have a go at that.
Yeah, incredible.
So my brother and his guys, Jim Kerr and Charlie Burchill and Mick McNeil and Derek Forbes, they suddenly make it look like, hang on a minute, we could do this. We could do this. And then, so I was at school with a guy called Frank McElhone that formed Altered Images. And then there was just bands coming out of our ears. It was an incredible time. It was an incredible time. The good thing is, right, unlike now, where if you go and play a pub gig, say in, let's pick a place, Birmingham, right? So I'm walking into the open mic night at Birmingham. If I don't sing an Adele song or an Ed Sheeran song, everyone gets bored and leaves, right? In that time, back in them days, the late 70s into the early 80s, there was 200, 300, 400 people coming to hear live music that was brand new, that they'd never heard of before. And that's what it was about to them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it was really that punk moment, wasn't it, that changed it all, because it did say you don't have to follow this particular formula. You can write a song, and suddenly people wanted to hear creation, didn't they, rather than just the old things that have been churned out for decades before. Well,
that's right. And I think if you think about it, just before that, in the early 70s, it began to get a bit prog rocky, right?
Yes, yeah.
It was bands like Yes or ELP or similar. And they were all getting a bit complex and a bit weird, and you had to be a virtuoso. And then a guy like Glenn Matlock, who can play two chords, gets involved with the Sex Pistols and writes I'm the UK, and that's maybe three chords. And then I go, hang on a minute, you don't have to be a virtuoso. We can do it.
Yeah.
We can do it. I mean, by all means, learn your trade. By all means, like I did. When I was still at school, right, I used to go around the country in Scotland, in Dundee and Aberdeen and Edinburgh and whatever, and do gigs every night. Every night. So I'd still be at school, right? I'd finish school at like 4:10, I think, just before it became 3:20, which it is now. Mm-hmm. I think it's 4:10. Mm-hmm. And then I'd have to go and train with Celtic for a couple of hours at their stadium until like 7. And then the guys in the band that I started off with, they'd pick me up, and then we'd drive to Dundee or whatever, and blah, blah, play a whole set of brand new stuff that no one's ever heard, but the place was jam-packed, right? And then I'd then drive back. If we were too late, I'd have to go straight to school and do it all over again. And and then here we go again. Now it's 4:10. Yeah. I have to go to Celtic, train with Charlie Nicholas and all the football players and all the stuff, and then they pick me up at 7. Then okay, we're going to Aberdeen now. I was like, oh, brilliant.
Oh dear.
If you wonder why I failed all my exams, there it is. There
it is, isn't it? And you know that it's not sustainable long term. But in that moment, I mean, what better teenage years could you possibly wish for? I mean, it's a dream, isn't it?
Well, I mean, obviously you don't think like that when you're young. No. You're just in the moment you're in.
It just feels the norm, doesn't it? But you must think that actually this is what happens in life because you're experiencing it for the first time. It's only when you go past that point and look back and you think, wow, that was a high. And now this point I'm at now is a different point, but I can see the highs and the lows that happened in between. And you realise then that actually it was particularly special.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I had no concept in real time that I was very blessed and very lucky to land in that time of the decade and all the rest. And I got to do what I wanted to do and stuff. But looking back on it now, I was thinking, oh my God, that was like something from outer space. I mean, I'll give you one story, right? Podcast special. a story I've never told anyone.
Oh,
right?
Lovely. This is what we love to hear on our show. Carry on.
Okay, so I befriend a guy called Pete Wiley. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we do a few gigs together around Liverpool and Manchester and wherever. I'm in a different band, but he's in his own band called Wah, the Mighty Wah.
Right.
And I think, wow, they're good. They're good, man. They are real good, right? And they were better than me at that point. So I became very good friends with Pete. And I think around 1981, 82, I got a phone call from Pete before we had mobiles. It was the house line, the landline.
The good old days.
Yeah, when it was a landline that cost you money and blah. There was no WhatsApp and all that. It was just a landline calling. And somebody shouts to me in the flat that we were living in London, Owen, Pete wants to talk to you. I went, Pete who? He said, Pete Wiley. I was like, okay, give me the phone. Right. Pete says, what are you doing next week? I said, I haven't got any plan. He went, do you want to come to Paris? I was like, right. He said, I've just been offered to be the support act for The Clash 8 nights in a row in Paris. And I said, okay. I said, well, am I a guest or what? What am I? He went, just pretend you can lift amps and pretend you're a crew guy. And then we'll sort out your accommodation and all the stuff when we get there. So I became a roadie for the Mighty Wah.
Yeah.
The story of the blues and the rest.
Yeah.
Come back and all that. So I became a roadie for Pete Wiley, and we did the 8 shows in Paris, and I got to watch Joe Strummer up close after dreaming about that 10 years before.
Unbelievable, isn't it? It's amazing how these things come round, isn't it? You wonder whether because you've thought about it and dreamt about it and really almost wanted it, have you almost manifested it, or does it go the other way that something's going to happen in your life and so it's written or was it just pure luck? I don't know. It's fascinating to think about how it all pans out.
No, I think what you said there. If I could replay what you just said there, I think all of the bits you said are really interesting. Is that luck? I doubt it. Is it what you imagine then becomes reality? Possibly. Do you create your own reality from what your thought is? I think that's possibly where it is. It's in there somewhere. So I think if you think anything is possible and then you behave like that, then suddenly it manifests itself in front of you, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example, right? All my aunties and uncles who remember me from being the 12 to 14-year-old shy guy that they used to pat on the head because he had lovely hair. But they thought, oh my God, Owen is so nice. But what they really meant was, Owen is so quiet.
Yes, such a good boy.
He was so quiet and he was so mannerly, blah blah. But inside, I wasn't quiet at all. I was thinking things. I had thoughts on everything. And then I end up sort of, whatever it is, 8 to 10 years later on national telly and then Top of the Pops. And for people at home with Top of the Pops, back in the days of 1986 or whatever it was, Top of the Pops is like something from outer space.
Oh, it was the show, wasn't it?
Right. So
I sat down and watched it, and it was just so influential, wasn't it? Everything, you had to be on it, didn't you? You had to be.
Yes. So now I've got my aunties and uncles who only know shy, quiet boy. He's now live on telly in the corner of their living room, being a mega star, and it's all fine. And he can talk on telly and he can do interviews, and they're like, wow, what the hell happened to him?
Yeah, what's happened?
Where did that guy come from?
Yeah.
And as we spoke about, it came from me inventing a character to get me out of my shyness.
Yes.
And Owen McGee is my real name. And my brother's name is Paul. And so I say that like he's gone. He's still here. My brother's name is still Paul. Anyway, I stole that bit and I used that. And then I used to do things like I'd be on telly, I'd be on Smash Hits magazine, I'd be on Germany TV, I'd be on Swedish TV, and if anything went wrong, I'd go, that's Owen Paul's fault. That's not Owen McGee's fault. Owen McGee is a much nicer guy than him.
Lovely.
And that's how it came to be.
So suddenly, you're able to go on stage and be somebody different.
Seriously, Kat, it freed me up. It freed me.
Did it?
Yeah, I didn't realise it at the time when it started, but it freed me completely. So even now, like I said, I'm 60-something, I use that guy, and I can still do virtually anything I want. Things can go wrong, I can still deal with it. I don't get shy like I used to, not speak for hours and end and all that. That guy is gone. This new guy is a mixture of me and a mixture of him, whatever. I can talk to anyone in the street. Like today, I was in a lovely town, not far from where I live, and I was just talking to strangers about their normal stuff, right? Shy guy would never have done that.
Yeah.
He would never have done that. No, he does.
Well, it sounds to me like that was the turning point for you, really, because then that allowed you to almost become anything you wanted to become. And you'd got your heart set on the music industry, and it just unfolded. It sounds to me from that point onwards. Did it actually happen that way?
Well, I wish it had, but no. So I become Owen Paul when I was 15, which I think is 1978. And you can buy a vinyl record, you can get on eBay, in the band I was in, and my name is Owen Paul. I'm still at school. And my name is Owen McGee. On the record, my name is Owen Paul. That guy was already created, right? And then it took me about another 8 to 10 years to become famous. Only the short 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, everybody always thinks these things are an overnight success, don't they, when you come out of seemingly nowhere. But behind it, there is all that work for all those years, as you've already described. You know, you're finishing your football practice, then you're going off and you're learning your craft, you're learning how to perform, you know, all of that leads up to the moment when actually fame arrives.
That's absolutely right. And so I arrived in London, I think, 1980, with the band, and we met a guy called Peter Powell, who was a DJ at Radio 1, and he'd done Top of the Pops and all sorts of great things. And it looks like he likes our band, he's trying to help. So he tried to get us gigs around London, like the Marquee Club or whatever, legendary places and stuff, whatever. And then I stuck with the band for another maybe 2 years or something, maybe less. And as soon as I left the band, right, I think within 24 hours, Pete called me and said, "I've just heard you've left the band." I went, "Yeah." He went, "I didn't want to be the guy to tell you to leave the band."
Wow.
I was like, okay. I said, "But I've done it anyway." He went, "Okay." He said, "I've got to tell you, I'm going to manage you." And that is exactly what happened. He became a manager, right? But because he was still working at the BBC, he couldn't admit he was. So some of the guys that worked with him, a guy called Russ Lindsay, if you Google James Grant Management, they became one of the biggest management companies in the world, right? And they manage people like Todd Schofield, Davina McCall, sports stars all over the world, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Anyway, they formed the company on me. Pete thought I was a guy that's going to be something. He thought I was a pop star, right? So he helped me try and get the songs to get together and do my thing. He went, "Don't like that, do it again, do this, don't do that, do this again, try again, blah, blah." It went on for years. So he's now managing me around 1981, 82, and now we're into 85. And I send a demo that Pete didn't know about, Janice Long, at Radio 1 at that time. And she liked it, said, "Would I record 4 songs for her show?" I went, "Yep." I didn't tell Pete, obviously. And and then she says, "On the Friday of the week we play all the songs, there's a TV show called the BBC Oxford Roadshow. Would you come on that and sing it?"
Wow.
I'm like, "Yeah." And that is exactly what happened. So on a Friday night, sometime in 1985-ish, I'm on BBC Two with 25 million people in front of me. I'm singing a demo, not even a record. I'm singing a demo. And after chasing a record deal for 8 to 10 years, the phone went bang.
Wow.
And by the Monday, I signed to Sony Records, worldwide deal for 8 albums, blah, blah, blah.
Blimey. I bet you were pleased at that point when you were doing that performance on that Friday night that you were in fact Owen Paul and no longer Owen McGee, because how could you have pulled it off? I mean, all those people, it must have, oh my God, you could easily at that moment of time have completely blown it, couldn't you? But clearly you didn't.
Well, like you said, I'd done my homework. I'd done my trade. I'd done thousands of gigs before that moment. I'd been around the scene. I'd seen everyone do it. I'd seen Boy George do this. I'd seen Tony Hadley do that. I'd seen da-da-da. I knew all them. They were all friends, right?
Yeah.
I'd watched them all, and I went, "Okay, I'll learn from that. Do this." Plus, in real terms, I'd done lots of gigs myself, dealing with gigs that go well, which is good, and dealing with gigs that don't go so well, which is not so good. So I was used to how it went, and I was used to managing an audience and that kind of thing. So when it became that moment, like you said, the Owen Paul guy is in charge of it. He's been around. He's done this for some years now. It's not overnight at all. This guy's done this a lot. And now it's going to be 5 minutes on telly. That's it. Go.
You're mine. You're my favorite waste of time. Here I am. I'm playing daydreaming fool again. My favorite game. 'Cause you are the one who's got my head in the clouds above. You're the one that I love. 'Cause you're mine. You're my favorite waste of You're my favorite waste of time. Mine, baby, you're my favorite waste of time. Mine, you're my favorite waste of time. You're mine, baby, you're my favorite waste of time. You're mine, you're my favorite waste of time. You're
Hi, my name is Owen Paul, and you're listening to CATtales.
From then,
Mhm.
suddenly you were everywhere, weren't you?
I was.
You know, my favourite waste of time suddenly came, I'm guessing, from that moment, because before it, you know, and it exploded, completely exploded for you. I mean, I remember singing that, you know, as everybody does, the radio's playing, and here I am joining you in a song, you know, because it was so catchy, it was so pop-worthy. It's just an absolutely awesome song and performance, actually, because it was, you know, you made it your own, didn't you? You know, for me, I bet that was almost, I don't know, I'm looking at it thinking, it's a blessing, but also maybe a little bit of a curse, because once you have a moment like that, can you ever top it? You know, is it then, you know, downhill from there on out? You know, how was it?
It's a damn fine question. And it's not that you beat it, because it's not a competition between one song or the other. It's like they're all your babies.
Yeah.
So I can't say my favourite child is my son Josh, or Livy, my daughter, or Hannah.
Yeah.
They're all my babies, and I want to cherish them and do the best by them and give it all I've got, right? But in reality, when you're making records, when you have such a worldwide smash like that, the record company want you to make 12 more versions of that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
the pressure.
So now let me take you back to being a dad with my 3 children. I don't want to make the 3 same children. I want to make different children.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way of looking at it, Owen. I love that analogy. I really do, because, yeah, the pressure's on for you just to continue to replicate.
They
isn't it? But-
they wanted 12.
Yeah.
They wanted 12 of my same children. I don't. I want different children. And then we fell out, and then they sued me, and I sued them, and all that boring stuff that record companies do, like they did with George Michael and the rest. And I Simply Red and Tears for Fears, and I could tell you a whole host of stories about that. And then it became a right mess, and then I couldn't even work using my name Owen Paul for a while because they owned the name.
Oh wow! I bet that bit must have been the bit really that hurt.
I found that very tough.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wasn't that keen on being famous, actually. So I kind of like working behind the scenes. I like working as a musical director, say, arranger guy, or a producer. I like working with musos who feel a thing and try and create a thing. And I still do to this day. I like that very much. And then once my fame got me to places that I knew lots of people that could get me work,